Kosmika. Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing? Hi, Pages. Hello. 皆様ごきげんよう、元気でしょうか？ページたちはどうなっていますか？ I hope you're having a lovely day. Hope you had a good weekend. Well, let me retweet really quick to let everyone know that we're live now. Oopsies, wrong thing. We're gonna have a chill react and chatting stream today. Okay. All right. So, we're gonna start with the ones that I received from you all. Wanted to post the D&D guides, but felt the FF ones fit better. Ah, okay. I mean, I wouldn't mind the D&D ones either. But I thought it was interesting that you shared this one, Bubba, because I have seen these before, but they're very funny. So I don't mind at all watching them again. So this is, it's titled A Crap Guide to Final Fantasy XIV. We can go ahead and watch the whole playlist because each video is not that long. Oops. So this one, the first one, excuse me, the first one in the playlist is for tanks. And I will tell you whether or not it's accurate. Let me turn off the BGM. All right, so this is it. Okay, I'll read the disclaimer. This is meant as a joke and is not at all a super serious, in-depth guide to Final Fantasy XIV. Any jabs I throw at anyone's way of playing the game are merely for comedic purposes only, especially when it comes to people's skill and performance and playing their role. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes or not playing 100% efficiently. No, but everybody does it. Nobody's perfect, except for me. Enjoy.
What up, warriors of fartness? I bet you don't have the slightest clue how to play this eyeball-melting anime game. Oh, sure, you probably know that you can beat up enemies by clicking on them until they die, but do you know how to find a static in your FC to help you prog uwu? I bet you don't even know what any of those words mean, so sit down, shut up, and eat your gizzle greens, because I'm gonna teach you what thee mayhap not knoweth, thy noobliness. Welcome to A Crap Guide to Final Fantasy.
This was made 3 years ago, so this would be before the current expansion, Dawntrail, came out.
The tank is the person in the front lines of every group, leading the charge to inevitable party wipes, which is because you are the most important person in the party, having slap fights with the boss since everybody else is way too squishy to handle the puss-pounding patty cake. You'll never see Jimmy's soft boots eyeing up the cloud of darkness with his 2x4 and scriggly tree branch. But how hard can tanking be? Turn on your tank stance, do your 1-2-3 combo, and blame the healers when you die, right? That sounds like somebody who needs their short Q privileges revoked. Firstly, tank stance. You turn this on to start gaining enmity. What's enmity? It's where you shout at the bad
Tanks
guys,
will
hey,
be
hit
like,
me! They'll be paying attention to you
healer?
so long as you're dealing damage, so you better be dealing damage and not just having a staring contest. If you don't, then they're gonna start indiscriminately charging at the rest of the party like a dog in a movie theater. If you are the designated main tank, or in light parties the only tank, make sure this is on. If there is another tank in the party and you are the off tank, make sure this is off, unless there's some other bad guys you gotta pull. If you have conflicting stances with the other tank, they will chuck their shoulder pads at you. As a tank, you should make sure the bad guy's ass is facing the party as often as possible, as indicated by the bright glowing half-eaten donut underneath the target. This is so that if the bad guy sneezes, you're the only one getting down with the sickness. And also, if your party has anyone playing any jobs that particularly likes to clap them cheeks, you've provided a bright shiny spanking space. On top of this, as a tank, you are by Heidelin's blessings horrible at dancing, which is why you should move as little as possible once you've got the enemy's attention. That way the party can continue to whack the wumpus without having to chase down the bad guy's glorious booty. Just as well, because you have control of where the baddies are, you control how useful everybody else is. So if somebody puts down a useful AoE, stop fucking running away from it.
Please stay standing in one direction, preferably north, but any direction actually, it doesn't really matter, as long as you're staying in one position.
Believe it or not, when you die, it's
especially
not entirely
for
the healer's fault, just mostly their fault. That little bit of responsibility you have is based on how well you can juggle mitigation.
Sorry, I'll pause when I say stuff. So it's a pain when, especially when you're playing a melee job, and you have what's called positionals. And positionals are attacks that do more damage from certain angles. It's mainly like the sides and the back. There's no diagonal or anything. It's always the sides or the back, and it's hard to hit those when the tank is moving around or spinning the boss around. It's such a pain.
It's mitigation. It's the buttons that make the bad guy's slaps hurt less that you sometimes press once a subscription and never think about again. You ever wonder why you have several of those buttons that all seem like they do the same thing? Well, that's because you're supposed to space them out over the course of a fight so the healers don't have to sacrifice their entire mana pool and firstborn child to get your frail ass through the...
Yeah, that's another thing that newbies will make a mistake. So they see their defense abilities, right? They're like, oh, gotta use those so I increase my defense and I don't die. Some newbies will not read the details of the ability, and they'll assume that it's like a toggle. They just press everything and they're like, oh, I'm good for this entire dungeon now. That's not how they work. They only last for a certain amount of seconds. You did that when you were starting out? Yeah, it happens. Yeah, they only last for a certain amount of time. So you need to like roll like through them, like rotate through them when needed, as needed.
Dungeon. Remember not to bust your tanking load all at once, or else you're gonna feel a lot of shame when you're all out of juice and the boss still wants to go about 4 more rounds. Every tank also has a press X to not die button that can be used to survive any devastating attacks, or if you're a really aggressive paladin who drew every enemy in a dungeon ever and don't want the healer to hire a hitman on you. As for what your limit break does, tanks are thicker than the average Disney mom, to the point your honky chonky donkey bahonky extends to the rest of the party, protecting them from damage up to a whopping 80% at LB3. The thing is, unless you're a high-end player, you'll probably be using tank LB as frequently as a good player rolls high on loot. Overall, you have 4 flavors to choose from: punk, grunge, metal, and Christian rock. There's warrior for big axes, big anger, big self-healing, and if you like to do fell cleaves, again and again and again and again. If you prefer more brooding than cruding, the Dark Knight is great for doing your best guts impression. You get a huge-ass sword, goopy black energy particle effects, and the literal best mitigation in the entire game, but it's balanced because they get the worst invulnerability button in the entire game. You press it, and then it makes you die. Gunbreaker is called a tank, but everybody knows it's just 3 DPS in a trench coat, as designated by the fact you get a fucking gun and your swings explode. But you have to be a hardcore gamer, since it requires a lot of cartridges. And finally, the Paladin, who tries to pretend they're a healer and caster, but only when the other healers and casters are looking. But fuck all that, because the most important thing is that you get the motherfucking sword and shield, baby! Try getting behind this wall of holiness, bitch! Now you know how to play tank, you're welcome.
You're welcome. So yeah, when that's more or less, no, everything he said was pretty much correct. Some exaggerations, obviously, for comedic effect. Yeah. The wait, what did he call each tank? I have to go back. It was really funny.
But fuck that makes you the entire impression. Big anger, have 4 flavors. And player, you'll probably be using tank LB as frequently as a good player rolls high on loot. Overall, you have
I hate that. That happens all the time. So like you're doing like a trial, which is like a boss fight or a raid, and the good loot drops and you're like, oh man, I hope I get it. Guess who gets it? The person who died 10 times. It always happens. Ugh.
Have 4 flavors to choose from: punk, grunge, metal, and Christian rock. There's warrior.
Wait. Punk, grunge, metal, and Christian. Wait, is that what he said?
Player rolls high on loot. Overall, you have 4 flavors to choose from: punk, grunge, metal, and Christian rock.
Punk, grunge, metal, and Christian rock. That's so funny. Okay, punk is warrior. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess so. Grunge, gunbreaker, grunge. Yeah, I can see that. Dark metal? Did you say dark metal for Dark Knight? Yeah, that makes sense. And Christian rock. It's so funny for Paladin. Not surprised it happens in... Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens in other games. All right, next one.
I love power, and I love feeling powerful.
Oh, wait, this is for healers. Let me start over. This is for healers.
I love power, and I love feeling powerful. It strokes my biggly wiggly and forces lesser beings to bow down to my awesome might, lest they taste my boot between their gums. Nothing has ever given me the same rush of adrenaline than knowing that everybody has to submit to my whims for their own safety. It makes my brain do the goody-good chemicals and allows me to feel as though I have control over this truly unfortunate reality that the universe is slowly careening into an eventual heat death, and there's nothing anybody can do about it as we are inconsequential specks in this cruel and uncaring universe. But none of that matters, because look at this, I can pull my party members into a pit that kills them. I find that hilarious. Welcome to a crap guide to Final Fantasy.
So yeah, okay. Healers. There are a number of people that are healer mains because they feel they want to be in control and have the power. And in a way they do, right? If your life is in their hands. Even if you can dodge every little thing, there are things that are not dodgeable or evadable. You need the healer to heal you. And yeah.
The greatest power of all is the power to have control over people's lives, which is why the healer is the most likely party member to have a god complex, right behind main tanks, mentors, and anybody who's an omnicrafter. You are the most important person in the party, as you, along with the tank, are responsible for keeping the party alive by kissing their boo-boos and slapping the bitch who made the boo-boo. That's right, as a healer, you do have to deal damage as well.
Man, but it's called a healer, and
healers
are supposed to heal, right?
There's a whole like thing where, especially people coming from WoW, they don't expect to be they don't expect to have to do DPS also as a healer. But that's something you do in Final Fantasy 14. Even as a healer, you are the healer and your role is to heal. But that's not all. That's actually not the main thing you're going to be doing the entire fight. You're actually going to be attacking as well. And there are people that are like, oh, but I'm a healer, I'm supposed to only heal. Like, and it's so frustrating when they don't listen and you try to explain to them that's not how this game works.
Wrong! A healer's job is not necessarily to heal the party, but rather to keep them alive. And yes,
yeah,
there's a difference. There's going to be a lot of downtime between heals, and you bet your afflatus rumpus that you're making the fight take longer than it has to if you're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs waiting for your next chance to cast Cure. What do you do when the party's full health? What do you do when the party's full health? Or even halfway up and standing? DPS the bad guys. No, I don't pay your sub. But when the fight takes too long, it starts to rub all up on everybody's nerves. And when you hit endgame, it serves you right when the boss will wipe the party cause you couldn't beat Enrage. Sure, you're for the most part keeping the party alive with a variety of healing utility spells, some regen, some shields, but an equal amount of time you're casting those, you're also throwing in some extra DPS when time allows.
So in FF in general, healers heal for the most of the game, but at the end game they get biggest damage spells. Is that still true for 14? No. Everybody gets the upgrades as they level up. Upgrades and new abilities as they level up. That applies for, well, so which expansion when did they change it? There was a point where healers had multiple offensive spells. Then one day, I want maybe an Endwalker, the Endwalker expansion, maybe was it then? I can't remember. They streamlined the healers, also the tanks, but that's another story. They streamlined the healers so that they only really have 3 offensive spells. Like, one of them has one additional one. Oh no, do they all have one more? Let me think. White Mage has the Blood Lily. Sage has, I can't remember the name of the ability. Scholar? And Astrologian does have a couple of other ones as well. I don't think Scholar has any other. I think they only have their 3. Wow, really? have to look at it later. And I can look at it now. What am I doing? Is holy not a spell in the game? It is. It is. So, so generally, all the healers only have 3 offensive spells. A basic attacking spell, a dot, and an AoE. That's it. They used to have more, but they were streamlined down. That's what they called it. It got dumbed down. There's no other way of saying it. They were dumbed down. So were the tanks, to make it easier for people that were having skill issues. That's a mean way of saying it. They just tried to make the game more accessible to people, is all. Holy is white mage's AoE. That's all it is. It's a good one. It's an AoE that stuns, which helps a lot. Hold on, let me look up Scholar's abilities. Lodestone. FF14. Job guide, Scholar. Okay, so okay. Blah, 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 blah. Let me get to the bottom of this. So it's level 100. Da, da, da. Baneful Impaction. Wait, what's this? Oh, wait. Baneful Impaction. Does that up unaspected damage over time to target and all enemies nearby it? Wait, what? It's a level 92 ability. I gotta check my hotbar when I log in. I don't remember that ability. Does that turn into... Wait, hold on. Okay. Well, anyway. Art of War, that's their AoE. Broil is their single target attack. Does Bio turn into Baneful? Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe land you too? Is that a trait? Let me look at their traits. 92. Huh? Oopsies. Bane. Oopsies. Full Impaction. That's a new ability? What? Oh. Bio is Scholar's dot. Increases. Oh, I see. Okay, so yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. So the healers have like their basic 3, and then they get like a couple, 1 to 3 more, depending on which job it is at higher levels. But they're situational. That's what they did with the Monster Hunter, recent Monster Hunter games. They're all new, user-friendly. Having said that, I'm glad, because I can't do math to save my life for the metagame. Ah, interesting. Your voice is out of this world, but since you were isekai... Silly. You guys are silly. All right, back to the video.
Remember, DPSing is just mitigating future damage. And if you're able to kill the current wave of dungeon mobs before they deplete the tank's HP, which by the way is going to regen to full by the time you reach the next mob pool anyway, what does it matter how low their HP gets? So yes, DPS when time allows. When does time allow? Well, I know you're scared of independence and thinking by yourself, but that's going to be a balancing act you'll have to figure out. However, my rule of thumb is the minimum amount of HP a party member has to be at is 1. But if that's too scary-wary for your widow fingies, ask yourself, will the enemy's next attack make your party member fall on their ass? If yes, heal so that it doesn't. If no, time to become a glare mage, motherfucker. As long as they're alive and you're clearing the content, you're doing your job right. There is one...
Yeah, so people who are newer to healing or just anxious, they heal way more than necessary. Like the tank or somebody in the party will take some damage. You're like, oh my god, I gotta heal them. You don't have to. Their health doesn't have to be 100% all the time. As long as they're not dead, they're fine. And as long as they're not going, like whatever they're about to get hit by isn't going to kill them, they're fine.
caveat to doing your job right, and that's that everybody will hate you for it. Literally, by healing you start to generate a lot of aggro from the bad guys, so if you ever decide to heal before mob pulls in dungeons, it's important to stick close to the tank like an ERPer sticks to Vieira's wearing 2B thigh highs, especially if you throw on a regen and suddenly 800 mobs crash through the wall with a How to Fry Fairies cookbook. You can still do it, but you should know what you're getting into, like live streaming and hoping that anybody will watch. As for your limit break, we heard you like healing, so we put more healing in your healing so you can heal while you heal. Unfortunately, you won't be using any limit break aside from LB3 because LB1 and 2 just heal the party, and you already have plenty of band-aids and popsicles to do that on your own. LB3, however, is so potent in healing it resurrects everybody in the party back from the dead instantaneously. But they will have to do the thriller afterwards, so it's best to be safe for when you at least have enough people to make a backup dancing crew. For the flavors of healer, we have 3 boomers and the new kid on the block who bought a Glock and has a TikTok. The white mage is the most straightforward. You heal when a buddy is boomers and the new kid on the block who bought a Glock and has a TikTok. The white mage is the most straightforward.
That's so funny. 3 boomers and a new kid on the block. Overwatch and Rivals mentality dictates everyone has to be at max, because going from 100 to 0 can happen in an instant, so this MMO goes against my trained instincts. I see. I mean, that's understandable. In most cases, one hit is not going to kill you. In most cases. I mean, there are you know, attacks or AoEs that will one-shot you, but in most cases that's not gonna happen. I really like the alliteration. Yeah.
Flavors of healer, we have 3 boomers and the new kid on the block who bought a Glock and has a TikTok. The white mage is the most straightforward. You heal when a buddy is hurt and you attack when they're not. Just about everything in your arsenal is all about feeding them so much it'll make an inflation artist blush in embarrassment. You're also equipped with the best AoE skill in the entire game and the ability to never run out of mana unless you're really, really bad. Best of all, when your buddies get hurt, you can heal them to harness their blood for the blood lily.
Blood for the blood lily.
White mage, but you like tarot readings and star signs like a suburban woman in her mid to late 20s. Astrologian is probably for you. You draw cards that will enhance the abilities of your party members and you fill the arena with enough space dust and constellations that you'll need 5 layers of sunglasses to see. Taking this job will also teach you how to build a bomb. Don't worry, it's friendly. Scholar is a weirdo who used to hang out with all the bad DPS kids, but decided to turn their life around when they met a nice girl who supports them in their new hobby. Only problem is she knows nothing about your hobby and you have to keep correcting her on fandom trivia. They're all about putting shields and defensive...
He's joking. It's with the Scholar, you have a familiar that's a fairy that you have with you at all times. You have to summon it, but it should always be with you, and it's constantly giving everyone a heal. And yeah, that's who he's referring to by the nice girl.
Buffs that protect the party from taking damage in the first place. That way they can guess what? DPS even more. Also, your girlfriend can get thick. And finally, the new kid on the block, the Sage. A scholar who decided to stop being nice and pick up a gun. That shoots lasers! Like Scholar, they also put shields and protective buffs on their party members so they can spend more time shooting lasers! How do they do this? After seeing Alphino change to the job, my guess is the Nullis are liquefied carbuncles. Rest in peace, Carby.
That's not what they are.
Now you know how to play healer. You're welcome.
Mulis they're just a special new type of weapon. They're not guns. Okay, next is... Why is everybody still wasting their time trying to learn how to skip ads? Oh, I didn't turn on my ad blocker!
Everyone always says you should be a team player, but honestly, I've...
Okay. This is melee DPS.
Everyone always says you should be a team player, but honestly, I've always felt like the best way to help the team is by crushing whatever obstacle that's in the way with my heavily toned squat receipts. So that's it. No more playing for anybody else. I play for me, baby. Any reason the raid wipes from now on is no longer my fault. I only exist to make big numbers fly towards the screen and watch my skill bar light up like a Christmas tree at a rave party. And you bet your precious patoot the progress preventers will be promptly pounded because this potent projector of pain will be peppering those beasties until your pack is paved with enough resulting pellets that every peddler will pray to be pampered by a more palatable pacifist. Welcome to a crap guide to Final Fantasy. Being a DPS is like being the king of capitalism, because the way you play...
Holy is a spell for the paladin class, not in Final Fantasy. Hello!
Being a DPS is like being the king of capitalism, because the way you play, taking care of others, is for bitches. Pay no attention to anybody else's well-being unless it directly affects you, and so long as you're alive and safe, you can act like anything bad that happens around you is probably not your fault. All that brain power instead will be put towards what really matters, your complicated as shit damage rotation. That's right, step aside tanks 1, 2, 3 and healers 2 damage buttons. These are where the big guys and gals play. Or at least that's what they like to tell themselves, since one of the only party utilities they have to worry about is pressing the faint button once in a blue moon. Their hotbar will more often have dozens of buttons all dedicated to big damage. The melee DPS is the most important person in the party, as you are the one on the front lines inspecting the bad guy's anus like it's where all the Hrothgar hats are hiding, while avoiding the enemy's sprays of hot, poisonous gamer stink. Not only are you going to be up in their grill turning their cheeks into a ripe tomato while flip-flopping in and out of danger like you're a politician making pancakes, you're also going to make like an adult film star and learn positionals! Certain attacks in your damage rotation will require you to land them in specific areas around the enemy target, specifically the rear and the flank, in order to deal additional damage. How do you tell where those positions are? By the massive disembodied titty underneath the target. See this nipple? That's the front, where the tank will be sucking on the sweet milkies that are tank busters. Which obviously means this conspicuous ticulus on the opposite end is the rear. What about the flank? That'll be on either side of the enemy. And if you're ever confused as to where each area begins and ends, a useful tip on how to tell is imagine there's a big X dividing each of the quadrants. Or you could just press true north and pretend positionals don't exist like it's an embarrassing memory of that time you did the Gangnam Style at school unironically. The only time it isn't the case is when the enemy has a full ring without an opening, in which case you won't have to worry about any of that guff and you can just sit there like an off-tank who's actually having fun. Otherwise, between hopping back and forth in these two spots and running around catching up to the boss whenever the tank feels like doing cardio, your little wall's legs are gonna get so much working out that they'll be thick as the milk from the teats of a whale made of molasses. Which is to say, expect to move a lot.
But what if I'm not in the right place for a position or the boss is far away?
Just remember the old adage, always be casting! Even if you're not able to land your positionals, or if the boss is too far away to make a melee attack, be sure to always be pressing your buttons no matter what. Unless you're a monk who has no ranged attack and you have to sit there thinking about how your job will inevitably be reworked yet again in the next patch. However, there is another secret epic gamer option that allows you to maximize the DPS you output at the risk of yourself as well as potentially everybody else. But it's usually the healers. This technique is called greed. The funny thing about AoE markers in Final Fantasy XIV is that they only ever mark you for damage if you're standing in them the moment they go away. This means that if you're fast on your fingers, you can stand there DPSing the bad guy while soaking in their radioactive orange juice until the very last second where you backflip out just as the dropkick of doom skims your fuzzy anime hairs and you don't lose a second of uptime. As I said, however, this is a high risk. If your timing is off and you spend just a millisecond too long, you'll be covered in cheese puffs. You might even die, or in some cases you'll have to suffer a fate worse than having to read the entire 24-hour chat log of Limza.
Oh.
Damage down.
Damage down, oh no. I thought Samurai did have positionals. Okay, well, since I'm here on the job guide page, let's go to Melee DPS Samurai. Their positions are very, very few. Very few. Okay, let me see. Very, very few. That's an AoE. Tendo Setsugeka. Nope. Tendo Goken is an AoE. Kaishi Setsu. No. Kaishi Goken. No. Midare Setsugeka, no. Tenka Goken, no. Higambana. Is that? Could have sworn. Oh, wait, maybe. Oh, is this before? Is this after? Am I remembering how it used to be? Okay, let me just search. Flank. Ah, yes. Okay. So they do have a few. So Kasha. Well, actually, that's the only one. Kasha's the only flank one. Rear and yeah, okay. They literally only have 2 positional Samurai. But yeah. So with the melee jobs in Final Fantasy XIV, they or even in general with just all the DPS, there's like kind of like a scale when it comes to damage output and party utility. So the more damage you do, the less party utility you have. And then on the other end, the more party utility you have, the less damage you do. That's just how the game is. Back in the day, excuse me, the Dragoon could use its jump to attach to transition out of frame to miss the orange rings, but now they took that out. Right, yeah. So in Samurai's case, they have no party utility whatsoever. So they do a lot of damage. They actually do the most damage out of all of the melee DPS. Let's see. Monk has a little bit of utility. So they do good damage, but not a lot. No. Yeah, okay. And then Viper is another one that offers 0 party utility, so they also do a lot of damage. Reaper does a lot of damage. They have some party utility. Ninja has like a couple of strong buffs that parties like. They have like high burst but low sustain. Dragoon has high sustain. But their burst is not great. That's actually not that bad. And they also have a party buff.
Shh, it's okay. Nobody's gonna take away your big damage numbers. Papa's here to make sure you don't greed too hard if you're not ready, okay? Okay. As the melee DPS, you also have first dibs on limit break against most bosses since yours deals the most damage, specifically when they're single. This is because when you hit the limit break button, you're not actually attacking them, just showing them pictures of a happy, healthy relationship, and nothing hurts more than emotional damage. Just ask Arianje. But what are the individual jobs whom of which meleeth said up-close slappers to thine adversaries? There are 5, and each one is a different flavor of anime and edge. Monk, for those of you who want to go fast, having one of the shortest global cooldowns in the game means you'll be dealing out punches like you're a pissed off caterer at a middle school sock hop. Instead of the traditional combos, each attack puts you in a specific stance. Bird, cat, and monkey. Each one combos into another attack that benefits from each respective stance. Your rotation will be all about swapping stances around more than a kid trying sick moves to impress their crush at a middle school sock hop. You also have perfect balance, which allows you to go freestyle and pick whichever stance you're feeling more at the moment without having to do any of the normal stance setup. If you repeat the same stance 3 times during your freestyle, you get a purple token on your stylish moves punch card. And if you do 3 different stances during the freestyle, you get a white one. Do a freestyle with 3 unique moves one more time while you have both a purple and white tokens on your punch card, and you get to turn it in to make your crush dripping wet with damage because for some reason you get to kick them in the face. The only problem is you are the only melee without a ranged attack to keep your uptime. And although you do have a dash that lets you zip around like Goku on a triple shot ristretto down blend macchiato, if ever you find yourself without a target to punch during combat, you can call timeout on your buff so they stop moving while you have a little. If you find yourself without a dash that lets you zip around like Goku on a triple shot ristretto down blend macchiato, if ever you find yourself without a target to punch during combat, you can call timeout on your buff so they stop moving while you have a little cry because your crush rejected you at the middle school sock hop. Dragoon is probably the most straightforward of the melee classes and the one most likely to have a tragic backstory. You've got a 5-button combo that swaps between hard slaps and sakura flowers and a handful of buffs that will turn anybody else in the party into your partner in dragon slaying. What kind of dragon slaying? That's up for you to decide, which you'll have plenty of time to do while you're suspended 20 moms in the air dropping in like a scantily clad human airstrike who's got a date with Nidhogg at 5 and a party at the quicksand at 6. Yes, the Matanga in the room. Dragoon has several damage-dealing jumps necessary to unlocking special attacks in their rotation that will lock you into an animation, which means you're stuck and unable to move out of your location while the boss is just about ready to piss all over the floor right before you land. So be wary when using your jumps, lest you fling yourself right into a danger puddle and perpetuate the tired singular joke the 14 community has for the class. On the bright side, though, you do get the objectively best job mentor in the form of you fling yourself right into a danger puddle and perpetuate the tired singular joke the 14 community has for the class. On the bright side, though, you do.
Oh yeah. So the classic meme about Dragoon is that people call it the floor tank, and they call it the floor tank because because of Dragoon's like animation locks and jumps and stuff. And when people don't know how to time it right, they end up dead. So people die a lot as Dragoon when they're not used to it.
Do get the objectively best job mentor in the form of Ninja is great for people who enjoy American football, because for every 10 seconds of excitement, there's a minute of fuck all. Your rotation is all about fitting every goddamn cooldown you can into a small window of time where you make the enemy take more damage, and on top of that, you also have the ability to live out every weeb's dream and do a bunch of hand gestures to cast magic attacks and also drop down into a low position and run with your arms flopping behind you in the breeze, which Final Fantasy objectively proves makes you go faster. You got 3 hand symbols, and depending on what order you do, you will make a different kind of anime reference. For example, going Chi Tenjin Tenjin Chi Chijin unlocks a secret dark ending of Cory in the house and causes the enemy to be susceptible to bonus damage. But maybe you're facing a mob of enemies who are immune to A-rank powered life forms, so you'll instead have to go Tenjin Jin Chijin Chijin Ten Chijin Tenchi for 3 seasons of Sonic Underground, which will kick sand into their eyes with how fast you'll be running circles around the slowpokes. More or less, you'll have to do some studying up on what combos do what, but here's a secret cheat sheet. Only the final mudra in the sequence matters. Fuck, it's the skill floor police. Cheese it! Samurai, the job most likely to have a dick measuring contest with a black mage. I'd be careful though, their dad works at Square Enix. This weeb is the most selfish of the melees as it provides no utility for the rest of the party and instead acts like the average soccer player, focusing on being the star of the show who gets all the attention, especially when it drops to the floor clutching its knee when somebody sneezes on them. Your attacks contribute to a kink bar, which allows you to shame the enemy in a variety of ways as your katana is also a substitute for a holy bat. So you remember how the monk has a punch card? Well, so do you, except yours is your sword and the punches are stickers. You have 3 basic combos, each one giving you a slight buff and slapping a sticker onto your katana. And depending...
Oh yeah, people affectionately call those 3 symbols on your gauge stickers. So you collect your stickers as you do your combo. The cool thing though about Dragoon is you can use its back jump to get down from high places that would normally 1 HP you if you jump. Yeah!
Depending on how many stickers you have, you will get one of 3 different rewards when you turn in your sticker sheet. With 1 sticker, you'll apply a dot that'll last longer than it takes to clean your room. Don't lie to me, I know a majority of my audience has depression. 2 stickers will charge up an AoE around you. And 3 stickers will make...
That was the sound effect of the ability he's talking about.
Each sticker attack also gives you an additional separate sticker. And once you have 3 of those, you get to do an additional... And finally, the Reaper, the transfer student from Garlemald who got the rest to mauled at the fact that they think they're better than the rest of the melees. Which I mean they are, but don't let any Reaper hear you say that. It'll go to their heads. Being the Reaper, the transfer student from Garlemald who got the rest to mauled at the fact that they think they're better than the rest of the melees. Which I mean they are, but don't let any Reaper hear you say that. It'll go to their heads. Being the darkest and edgiest of melees means that your job gauge is the Dark Souls HUD. Similar to the Samurai, you build up a bar that can be spent on big slaps. And those big slaps give you edgy boy points that can be spent on additional big slaps. Except this time, they're coral blue number 5 semi-gloss lipstick. Once you've kissed enough boys to build up your fashion bar, you get to turn into a spooky ghost. You do the slice. You do the spooky slice. The spooky slice. Now your swings have some spice. You do the slice. It's just your soul that's the price. You do the slice. You do the spooky slice. And now you know how to play Melee. You're welcome. For the northern snow front of Ilsabad, the land was cold and the people scarred. They sought the void with a daring act and empowered themselves with the deviant pact. You do the slice. You do the spooky slice. The spooky slice. Now your swings have some spice. You do the slice. It's just your soul that's the price. You do the slice. You do the spooky slice.
So since this was done in Endwalker, which was the previous expansion, it's missing it's missing the latest melee job, which is Viper. Viper is it wields 2 swords and basically just think of it as Kirito from Sword Art Online. It's basically that. 2 swords that you it's does a lot of damage because it has like no party utility either, like very similar to Samurai. Like it's like damage output of Samurai with this like the mechanics of Reaper basically. Viper is Viper's all right. I kind of wish that I played Viper right when it came out because they actually changed it so that they made it essentially easier to play. So the current version of Viper is like the easier version, which I regret. Like I regret not experiencing the original iteration of it. I might have enjoyed it more actually. I think it's not bad. I find it like a little boring. It's not as interesting as I was hoping it to be, is what I mean. Oh, we have a raid. Oh my goodness. Let me get some, let me put the music back. Hi Miela. Welcome raiders. Thank you for the raid. How are you? How was your stream? Sorry, I'm like giving you a shout out now. Whoa, whoa, double raid? Oh my gosh. Hello. Hold on, wait. Hi, Beauregard. Hello. Hi, readers. Welcome, welcome. Let me shout you out as well. Please check them out. Pages. Oh, you guys came together. Oh, never mind. I misunderstood. Sorry. I'm in the middle of typing. Thank you. Welcome in. How was your stream, Beauregard? What did everyone do? How and then with Miela's stream as well. How are you guys? I have to wait before I can give a shout out to Beauregard. You played retro Pokemon? Fun! Which one? Right now we're just reacting to some videos. Miela was also streaming Pokemon? Wow. Oh, this is Joket's 14 guides. we're going through his guides. We watched the tank one, the healer one, and we just finished the melee DPS one. And I was just explaining about how, since this video was in, oh, thank you for the follow. Since this video was made when Endwalker was the current expansion, it doesn't include Viper, and I was explaining how Viper is. Hello. Let me find your channel, Miela. Oopsies. Oh, I keep typing the wrong thing. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. There we go. Oh damn. Okay, no, stop. Let me give you a follow back. There's enough time. Did enough time pass for me to be able to give Beauregard a shout out? Let me try. There we go. Viper's fun when you want to play melee, but you turn off your brain. Yeah, really. So like, the change they made to Viper, from my understanding, was the combo was a little bit more involved, but now you literally just press the button that lights up on your hotbar, and you just kind of like, just turn off your brain and you do big damage. There's really no skill to it. The very little skill there is trying to get your positionals. Oh my gosh. Positionals as a Viper is actually very frustrating because it is a very fast attacking class or job. That's part of like that's one of its features. It's fast. And if the boss is moving around a lot because the tank is moving, oh, so frustrating. As I was leveling Viper, I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna bother. I'm just gonna stand here and attack, and if my DPS is not great, that's not my fault. It is very clicky, yeah. I enjoyed the speed actually. When they were talking about Viper before Dawn Trail came out, I was actually looking forward to it because I was like, oh, they're making it sound like a fast and technical job, which it's appealing to me. But it's this to turn your brain off. Melee DPS. All right, next video. That is the...
Everybody likes to do damage.
Just DPS.
Don't pretend like you don't, because I know you're lying. Otherwise, why would you be playing an RPG with core mechanics such as leveling up, getting stronger, and looking fashionable as fuck? It's to do massive numbers on the other guys until their numbers are so small they match the PP size of anybody who doesn't commend at the end of a duty. The other members leaving too quickly is no excuse. How do you expect to move quick enough to avoid AoEs if you can't even move quick enough to tell your allies they're doing a great job and that their glamour is sexy? Is that uncharacteristically nice of me? Maybe, but it means I get to steal the LB3 from the only melee in the group. Welcome to a crap guide to Final Fantasy.
Just DPS, yeah.
Today I'm going to be talking about every job. That's right. What, you thought only the DPS have to DPS? Boy, I could slap you with my
thank you for letting me know. Sorry.
Gesture. Damage is the name of the game in Final Fantasy XIV, and the entirety of the game is designed around everybody dealing it, including the tanks and the healers. If the DPS roles are contributing 60% of the damage, tanks and healers are the ones who fill in the other 40. So if you don't contribute, you belong in the garbage chute. So don't get so hung up on the role names. Everybody is a DPS. What I mean specifically is that one, not only is FF14 a cooperative game, which means anytime you waste is not only yours, but also anybody else in your party as well. And two, every combat feature in FF14 is designed with dealing damage in mind. Healers and tanks get skills that actively promote doing more DPS. Hell, Sage is a healer whose skills actively benefit from doing DPS. And most importantly of all, Enrage. Enrage is what happens when you overstay your welcome in a dungeon or boss arena and the residents have run out of things to talk about and are just really ready for you to leave so they can finally go poop without being worried that you're gonna steal all their old DreamWorks DVDs. That is to say, you're either forceful...
Oh yeah, so with Sage, Sage is a little different than the other healers in that it's not it does have active healing abilities and shielding abilities, but its passive healing is done through attacking actually. So where White Mage, Astrologian, and Scholar have like regen abilities, Sage, well, they do have they do have like one or two regen abilities, but their passive healing is done by attacking. So what they do is they have an ability called Cardia, and that is like assigning you're essentially assigning someone as the person who's going to be receiving your passive healing, and it's always the tank, almost always the tank. 99.99% always a tank. So anytime you cast an offensive spell, they're going to receive passive healing. And if you're doing an AoE, they're going to get even more healing. So it's actually really nice when you're a Sage and you're AoEing a bunch of monsters in a group. The tank doesn't die and you're doing damage at the same time. It's great. In fairness, I totally swiped that Kung Fu Panda Blu-ray.
Fully kicked out, or alternatively, they instantly murder you. How do you prevent this from happening? You murder them first, of course, and then you pop in a copy of Shrek 2 so that you're going to steal all their old DreamWorks DVDs. That is to say, you're either forcefully kicked out, or alternatively, they instantly murder you. How do you prevent this from happening? You murder them first, of course, and then you pop in a copy of Shrek 2 so you can watch the castle siege again. And guess what? The later and later in the game you get, the more and more frequent enrages start to appear. And they'll have more and more health, too. So if somebody decides they just don't feel like they want to cooperate in this team game they decided to play, and now the boss has 1/8 of its health left and is about to destroy the entire universe, Princess Fiona isn't going to be the only one who will need a hero. Hopefully it's been drilled into your head now that DPSing is essential, not just for the...
So yeah, so Enrage, to give like a more clearer explanation than what he said, Enrage is what happens when you're fighting a boss, and after a certain point in time, it's going to like start casting very slowly casting an ability or spell, and if that spell goes off, it wipes the whole party. So you want to, if the boss has an enrage, you want to kill the boss before they start casting their enrage. So when you're hitting enrage, you know that means you're taking too long. So you need to be DPSing.
Jobs with the title sticker, but also anyone in a fancy robe or edgy trench coat as well. Now that you know that, how does one go about dealing max deeps? The first most basic thing is to do your combos. Press a button. See another button light up? Press that one. Congratulations, you have successfully completed a combo. And doing so will reap a myriad of benefits, from putting damage over time on your target, gaining mana, doing your taxes, or any variety of other additional effects. But mostly, it all achieves the same goal of dealing more damage. Secondly, you want to press these skills that the game labels as abilities and the community calls off-global cooldowns, or OGCDs for short. More like OGCDs nuts! I personally call them free damage buttons. They cost you nothing, and there's literally no reason not to press them while your normal cooldown is rolling.
But this one has a long cooldown. What if I need it later?
No, it doesn't. Shut up. The cooldowns in this game are so short you might as well press them, because by the time you need them again, whoop, they're back up. Not to mention, many jobs require you to press those free damage buttons to unlock even spankier damage buttons. So use your goddamn free damage buttons. It's free damage. The next rule of DPSing is knowing your ABCs. Always be casting. This means mashing away at your keyboard like a tickle monster working double time. More specifically, it means that the best way to make sure you are doing the most damage that you can is to always have your global cooldown going, even if it means accidentally pressing the wrong skill like the single brain cell that you are. Because if you're always pressing buttons, even the suboptimal one, you are doing more damage than if you weren't. And doing damage is always better than not doing damage. Yes, even Skaith. Here's a live example with my two subjects, Jan and Chloe. They both deal 1 million damage, and suddenly the boss flies out of melee range. Jan sits there waiting patiently for the boss to return before she can start doing 1 million damage again. Meanwhile, Chloe's pressing the deal 1 damage at a range button the entire time they're waiting. I ask you, puny viewer, which person is dealing more damage right now?
Yeah, but it's only 1 damage.
Who's dealing more damage?
As if any fight is going to get so close that dealing...
Who is dealing more damage? Sure, it might not look like much, but it's going to matter when they fight the boss that has 3 million and 2 health and they wipe all because the other DPS decided they don't want to press buttons.
It's such little DPS, it won't make a difference.
Sure, Jan. Now, one of the best things you should do to improve your damage in Final Fantasy XIV is this. It's really simple. I want you to lean in. It's a super simple thing. Here, come close. I'm gonna say the thing. Are you ready? Okay, here it goes. Read your tooltips! The little block of text that literally tells you what your skills do.
Please read them.
Honestly, you would be surprised how many people queue into an expert dungeon and never realize they have a skill that can attack multiple targets. Even all the things I tell you in this video, the combos, the range attacks, the AoE damage skills, the free damage buttons. The best way to know what your job is capable of is by reading your job skill tooltips yourself. So you better read your goddamn tooltips, because if I see another player not knowing about their AoE combo and a mob pull at level 80, I'm gonna grab the nearest aetheryte and bash you so hard you're gonna be teleported to the final resting place of every ERPer's used undergarments. With all that out of the way, you'd think I'd covered everything you need to do to be an ultimate clearing badass, right? Unfortunately, not, waffle face, because the final responsibility every single role in Final Fantasy XIV shares is not dying. Oh sure, the healers help, but most of the time your own survival is on you and only you. And that means making sure you do the fight mechanics and don't take avoidable damage like it's got the cheese touch.
Oh, I'm sorry, are you in the middle of your cast? You want to try and hit that purple parse like the big man you are?
That's too damn bad! Each time you take damage that is avoidable, it means the healer has to heal you and they're dealing less damage. And on top of that, you get this cheese puff called a vulnerability stack. For each stack you have, you take more and more damage until you get one shot when the enemy farts in your general direction. All this to say, if you don't avoid enemy damage, you will not only make the healer do less DPS, but you're also likely going to die, which means 0 DPS. And if you still think that's not a big deal and the healers can just res you, each time you die you get a dunce cap of shame that reduces your DPS even more for about as long as a red light in Philadelphia. So you better stay alive or else I'm gonna raise you so I can rescue you into an AoE and kill you myself. To recap, everybody's DPS matters. Press your free damage buttons. Always be casting. Read your tooltips. Stay alive. But even if you keep all those things in mind, the #1 rule to improve your DPS performance is to practice. Striking dummies are all over the goddamn place, out in the overworld, and even in the yards of some random people's houses in the residential districts. So if you see one, there's no shame in whacking it a few times like you're auditioning to be a dominatrix. I'm sure the neighbors won't mind. Practice makes perfect, and even all the foresight in the world will not fully translate it.
So, okay, so there are striking dummies, like around the striking dummy thing he said was really funny because it's really true. Okay, so striking dummies are like dummies that you can practice attacking on, and there are ones in like the overworld that you can go to naturally, but you can also, if you have a house in the game, you can put one in your yard, and you a lot of people are guilty of going to random people's houses and using their striking dummies. So like it's not uncommon to, like, if you own a house and you have a striking dummy in your yard, if you just like go out there and see someone you've never seen before fighting it, it's like, oh, okay, I guess. It happens all the time. It's really funny. What was the other thing I wanted to say? What was the other thing I wanted to say? Oh yeah. So it may seem overwhelming to like learn the abilities and combos, but actually it's a very learning them is very natural with the way leveling works, because when you're starting out, you only have like two abilities. You gain more and more of them as you level up. So, you know, at like level 5, you'll have 3. At level 10, you'll have 4 or 5. So, like, you're going to be using the few that you start with a lot. And so it's going to become, like, second nature to you. So you won't have to stress out about any new abilities you get. So you're like, okay, great. This is my 1, 2, 3 combo. I got this down. Oh, I turned level 15. I have a new ability. What does it do? Oh, okay. Let me practice it and focus on that, because I don't have to worry about my 1, 2, 3 because I already know it. Imagine taking out the trash and finding out some dudes from several blocks down is using your punching bag. No, yeah, that's exactly it. Or like not, or even like, or someone from another neighborhood entirely. They're like in your yard using your punching bag, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess.
Into the doing. So go and do. Don't mind. Practice makes perfect, and even all the foresight in the world will not fully translate into the doing. So go and do that doing, so that one day you too can do the do and make everybody else look like doo-doo because of how good your doing skills are. And with how much doing you'll be doing, maybe someday you too can clear an ultimate and get a shiny-ass weapon of your own to show off to people AFKing at the Limsa Aetherite Plaza. Just know the difference between an amateur and a master is that a master has failed way more times. By the way, get ready for a party wipe. Wait, what?
Yep, there goes that party. So with the there are certain raids in the game. They're called ultimate raids because ultimate is the highest difficulty in the game, and they drop weapons that you can only get in there. They're very shiny and very pretty looking, or very cool looking, and that's the only way to get those weapons. It's like the reward basically for being able to clear like a super difficult raid. Not only, well, along with the shiny weapon, you get a title. So like those are the two things. It's like, it's just, just to show off that you did it, right? And because people like showing off, a lot of people will have their ultimate weapon equipped and just stand around in a busy hub, just where a lot of people are, so they can be seen. Perfect Legend, by the way. That's another meme. Like, so like Perfect Legend is one of the titles you can get. So like they're all different types of legends. But anyway, the meme with that is that a lot of people who have done ultimate raids and cleared them, they're called a legend. Not all of them have cleared them legitimately. Whether that be because they got carried hard, or they got they paid someone to do it for them, which is against the terms of service. A lot of people do that just because they want the shiny weapon and or title. And so it doesn't have the same like what's the word I'm thinking of? I know. Isn't it shocking? What's the word I'm thinking of? Not notoriety. But like it doesn't have this like when that started becoming a thing where people would pay others to clear ultimate raids for them just so they can get the shiny weapon and the title. Prestige, thank you. Yeah, the prestige is not there anymore. So like when you would used to see someone who was a legend, you'd be like, wow, they must be so good. Like so much respect, right? Nowadays, it's like, oh, did you buy your weapon or and it's especially embarrassing for them when you end up in like a dungeon run with them or something like that. Yeah, PayPal legend. And like you see the legend that's like dying constantly in like a dungeon or like a raid boss. It's like, oh, legend, by the way. Someone you would expect to perfectly execute everything like is constantly dying, which means they either bought it or they got carried. Must be nice being paid to win. Yeah, they're not cheap. Older ultimates are cheaper. Current ones are not. Yeah. Seeing something like an alpha legend dying 18 times in an alliance raid is infuriating to see. Yeah, I don't get mad anymore. I'm just like, ugh, whatever. They're a waste of time. It's pathetic, really. That's how I feel about it.
Congratulations, you're now better at the game than you were 5 seconds ago. Oh! And now you know how to DPS. You're welcome.
Oh,
finally my Q just popped.
Okay, let me explain that joke. So as a DPS, I'm sure it's the same thing with like, I'm sure a similar thing happens in WoW and like other games in general. When you're queuing up for like a dungeon or a roulette, okay, so let me explain what a roulette is. A dungeon, well, no, it's not just dungeons, but anyway, a roulette is when you queue up to do a random duty, whether that's a dungeon, a trial, which is like a boss fight, or a raid. And what's it called? Roulettes give a daily bonus for EXP. So people are doing roulettes every day as part of their dailies. And when people are queuing up as DPS, it takes a long time. It can be short, but a lot of times a DPS will have to wait because most people are DPS and there are not enough tanks and healers. So that was the joke. He's like, oh, my queue finally popped because he was queuing as a DPS. Overwatch and Rivals have that same problem in ranked. You pay someone to rank up to masters, then you play and suddenly yeah. And you can't tell if he's throwing. Yeah, it's definitely a problem in other games too. Like I'm aware that happens in like games like League and stuff a lot. And yeah, definitely in Overwatch as well.
No, one of the other party members withdrew. Ah, fuck.
I hate when that happens. You're queuing as a DPS and you're like waiting for 20 minutes and it finally pops. You're like, finally. And then you click commence and then someone else either forgets and fell asleep or they didn't commence. Now you have to wait longer.
Quick announcement, I'm partnering with GamerSups.
Oh,
if you want to try out some tasty energy drink flavors, you can get some free samples.
My ad blocker isn't working for this one.
If you like it and want more, use the code JOCAT for 10% off.
Oh, wait, just kidding. It's not an ad. That was his.
Every now and then I get a little bit tired.
Okay, sorry. This is for physical range DPS.
Use the code JOCAT for 10% off. Turn around. Every now and then I get a little bit tired of being counted on to do complex tasks that involve more than it takes to eat a bowl of mushy cereal. In fact, I don't even feel motivated to hear what my allies need of me. I'm just gonna sit all the way over here, enjoying my Lucky Charms, alone. And if things go wrong, I'll have to rely on the ever-reliable American method. I already see absolutely no negative consequences. Welcome to a crap guide to Final Fantasy.
Wait, okay, let me go back.
Welcome to all the way over here, enjoying my Lucky Charms. To hear what my allies tasks that involve more than it takes to eat a bowl of mushy cereal. In fact, I don't even feel motivated to hear what my allies need of me. I'm just gonna sit all the way over here, enjoying my Lucky Charms, alone. And if things go wrong, I'll have to rely on the ever-reliable American method. I already see absolutely no negative consequences. Welcome to a crap guide to Final Fantasy.
Okay, the joke with him saying like all the way over there. Physical range DPS, both physical ranged and magic ranged. People are very, very guilty of standing far away and making it difficult for everybody else when like a mechanic happens. Or they get hit with something and they're too far away for the healer to be able to heal them. They're out of range. It's so annoying when they do that. You don't need to be all the way out there all the time. You're safe being closer.
I'm sick of having to dodge so many up-close AoEs. The boss keeps doing them, and I have to keep moving away to avoid getting splatted. And then I have to resort to the equivalent of throwing marshmallows that will scratch the enemy about as hard as a massage therapist with germophobia. I'm trying to beat them into submission, not soften their tenders. What's that I hear you say? There's an option to give me the ability to do max deeps even when I'm disconnected from the boss like an...
Oh, regardless, it's still the healer's fault? Yeah. Not only are you safe being closer, but you're safer being closer since you're more likely in range of the healer's AoE. Exactly. So yeah, what he's talking about right now is people that don't want to deal with like AoEs up close to the boss, or like they're just afraid. A lot of people that play ranged classes are just like afraid of melee. They don't want to get hit, so they play a ranged job. This is what he's talking about.
An internet provider out in the country? Of course there is. I was just getting to it, and I'll thank you not to interrupt me again. The physical range DPS, or just range for short. Physically throwing my spleen into the splattering range of the near semi for long is the more mobile and forgiving cousin of the melee, and is the most important person in the party, since you are the least likely to get a commission in the end. And we thank you for providing such a valiant service, as there always needs to be someone in last place. Your role is all about keeping your uptime going, and although yes, every other role is also about trying to do that, you have absolutely no excuse for messing up. The gimmick of the range DPS is that you don't have to worry about any positionals or cast times and can run around the arena like an indecisive artist in a Hobby Lobby. You get to stay at a safe distance, and if there's ever a pissy puddle underneath your feet, moving out of the way won't risk you doing suboptimal damage. So what's the catch? Nobody gets off scot-free in this game, as all roles have their stonks and stinks. Tanks have the responsibility of dancing with the boss. Healers have to share gear models with the magic DPS that have been dyed white, and you will have to suffer the nail-pulling drawback known as the range tax. To balance for the fact that you have nearly no limitations on your mobility, your damage will be on average slightly less than both the melee and magic DPS jobs. And hell, sometimes even some tanks with their openers that'll put down bosses faster than Peter when it finds a stray. The range tax, although...
Oh, the range tax is so big. I'm a dancer main, so I suffer from this all the time. So with physical ranged jobs, they are able to attack constantly while running around. You don't have to you don't have to stop and cast like a magic DPS would have to, and you don't have to be up close like a melee job. You can shoot your arrows from anywhere. You can shoot your gun from anywhere. You can throw your chakrams from anywhere. One of my pet peeves, one of my personal pet peeves, is seeing other physical ranged people running around constantly, like they have no reason to be like there's nothing happening. There are no AoEs going out. You're not being targeted for anything, but they're still running around, jumping around too. While I'm at it, jumping around. It's so annoying. You know what I say about those kind of people? They have ADHD.
Real will make a tiny droplet of difference in the grand scheme of things, and if you pick a ranged job and feel as though you're being outdone by your peers, odds are you were probably doing badly anyway, and the reason you have trouble jumping over that hurdle is just because your toes were too big and floppy that you would have tripped over every single one so badly anyway. Discovery Channel would decide to make a show about whether or not you're real. Let me summarize. If you do bad, it's a skill issue. Nevertheless, same rules as any role applies in the fact that you should stay out of the piss puddles wherever possible. Even more so considering you're wearing Heelys and by all rights should be able to avoid any and every possible puddle and be the nicest smelling at the party, which is important because the healers only have so much nasal tolerance. Lucky for you, each range also has a bottle of perfume to spray that will at least mask the piss smell a bit. The final shared utility in the
That's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah, every physical range job has some form of utility. And there's like a mini scale between those two. So I think he'll talk about it when he gets there. Do I have any horror stories? Like what kind of horror stories?
And is the limit break, which although does not do as much single target damage,
me spinning in circles while doing tech step clueless.
The melee has the benefit of being able to hit multiple targets in a line like a really violent high-five surfer. The range roster is a trio of performers, each one skilled in a different charismatic art, and each one a different flavor of slutty. First is the bard, where your bow is your harp. Also, your harp is your harp, because with this job you get a bunch of instruments you can play, including these obnoxiously loud drums. You are one of the few jobs with the endangered species known as the damage over time skill, and your main attack involves firing a single arrow repeatedly until a bigger, cooler arrow gets jealous and sometimes asks to be fired too. But not all the time, because
I cast gun alakablam. There was once upon a time, back in Heavensward, the first expansion, they updated the jobs in such a way that at the time the only physical range classes or jobs were bard, and the new one at the time was machinist. Previously in A Realm Reborn, the base game, shooting your arrows was just a normal ability. In Heavensward, for some reason, they made it so that they had to cast it, like, or they're charging it, but it was basically casting and like their shots. And so they affectionately became known as bow mage and gun mage. Well, I forgot where I was going with that, but yeah, that's a now. But yeah, they changed. That changed. I don't remember if it was in the middle of Heavensward or in Stormblood. I think in either end of Heavensward or Stormblood, they changed it back to instant shots. Raids where you wanted to strangle a teammate? Oh, a lot. I mean, I can't give any specific ones, but okay, I can think of one specific one. I can't remember like all the minute details, but I was part of what's known as a static. A static in Final Fantasy 14 is like a permanent group that you always raid with. And there was statics often like end up breaking up or dying at like some point or another. Most don't last very long, but yeah, a static I shouldn't say permanent. A static is a fixed party, and everyone that's like you actually you maintain communication with each other, and you guys schedule when you're gonna raid together. That's a static. So I was in a static. This was during Shadowbreakers, and we were doing savage raids. The savage raiding tier, and we were trying to find a tank for our static, a second tank. We had one. We were trying to find another one, and we had one that was like basically he was trying out basically to join our static. And he was new to savage raiding, which was fine. We don't mind that. We weren't like super, we aren't all like super veterans. It was more of we weren't like elitist or anything. Instant static nightmare, trying to make a blue mage static. Oh, I haven't tried that, but I can imagine. So this tank that was trying out to join the static, he had a false sense of confidence. His confidence came from his success in raids at the normal difficulty. But the thing is, normal difficulty raids are much easier than the savage difficulty of raids. And because of this false sense of confidence, he had this attitude about him, which was not pleasant, for one. And he was and also there is a so like when you're doing your combos and you're doing your what they call a rotation, when you're doing your rotation is basically like your combos including but also including everything. There is there is a rotation for every job that is led as like the most efficient and gives the most output. And if you don't follow that rotation, in savage raiding, that's going to be a problem. People that, you know, they do the math to... Oh, let me turn on the music while I'm talking. There are people out there that do, like, the math for all this stuff. They figure out what's going to be the most efficient with maximum output. And they... So it's like, this series of button presses, like, this combo will give you the best maximum output of damage. He didn't follow I think he was a warrior. He didn't follow the warrior rotation whatsoever. He was freestyling it, like a freestyle samurai, yes. He wasn't a sprout, but I guess you could call him a sprout deluxe. But yeah, because he would be like, he would, what's another thing? Actually, I can't talk about this part, but anyway, let's just say there are ways to share your, in like the details of your, the details of like how well you've done in, boss fights and raids to show the actual numbers. And, he would refer to his details for the normal difficulty raids, and that was him it's like, are you serious? Like, because you think you did well in the normal difficulty raids, you think you're going to be amazing in the savage raids? But yeah, and the other half of it, he would call... So we were practicing this one raid. It was, I don't remember which the name of the raid, but I remember which boss it was, but that's not important. He constantly made the same mistakes over and over and over and over again, even though we tried to explain to him how the mechanic worked. So we'd be like, okay, when this happens, you need to go over there and use your defensive cooldown so that you don't die and you don't get anyone else killed. Every single time, he would go to the wrong spot, either to the wrong spot or combination, go to the wrong spot and not use his cooldown and got other people killed. Every single time. I mean, he eventually got it, but it took so many tries. Why you got a 99 on E9N? Yeah, exactly. That was him. That was him. I keep wanting to play because I love FF, but I'm too intimidated by people. I'm confident I can't learn all the technical stuff in the meta. You really don't need to worry about that. All that stuff will come with time. When you're leveling, when you're leveling up and just getting through the story, you don't have to be perfect whatsoever. No one's gonna care. The only time it matters is if you're doing savage raiding, and that's at endgame. It's gonna take you a while to get to endgame. The most important thing about Final Fantasy XIV is to just enjoy it in the way you want to enjoy it. And it's a very story-focused game. So everyone encourages you to, well, the people that aren't story skippers will encourage you first and foremost to enjoy the story. And if you're not perfect in a dungeon, it's fine. It's fine. As long as we get it done. You don't have to be perfect. This isn't WoW. This isn't WoW. Yeah, it's like Beauregard said, there is no meta. Every job is viable. There's no preferred comp at all. Yeah, there are no builds or anything. There's like one, and there's only, there is BIS, and there's only one of it, well, there's some very, very, very minute variation depending on, but that's super endgame stuff. Have too much PTSD with Destiny raids? It's different. It's different with FF14. Don't worry about it. I play for fun. Doesn't matter if I suck at the game. Yeah. I mean, like, you will want to get to a level where you're, you know, not causing problems for other people, but that should come naturally, right? You know, as you're leveling up and you're doing like the lower level dungeons and you're exposing yourself to, you know, playing with a party and how that works, you'll gradually the way the game is set up is you're supposed to gradually learn. Destiny raids have a completely different backend. They're barely comparable. Yeah, I imagine so. Yeah. Destiny is about the gear, 14 is about execution. Exactly. Over time will be at least good to play at minimum. And 14 also, like, they give you tools to learn what to do. Like, there's a thing called the Hall of the Novice, which teaches you the fundamentals of gameplay. And they recently added even like they added more to it. For the longest time, it was just like the super basic stuff. They recently added more to like explain what certain markers look like in like certain fights. Like, oh, if you see this marker, you have to move away from the rest of your party so you guys don't overlap and hit each other. If you see this marker, you need to group up with everybody else because it's a stack, and so on. Yeah. Synchronized swimming, you miss a step or don't follow the dance, the whole team wipe. Destiny raids are nothing but stress. Yeah, okay, so Savage raids are like that, but that's endgame. You don't getting to that point is gonna take a long time. And you don't have to, and also it's optional. It's completely optional. If you don't want to do endgame raiding, you don't have to. It's the only thing that you would get out of doing Savage raiding in 14 is the gear and some loot drops that only drop from there, but that's it. It has no effect on your game progress whatsoever. It's completely optional. You can the gear that you get from Savage raids is not required at all to progress through the game. There's a weapon in Monster Hunter Rise that I swear makes a stack marker sound, and I always That's funny. Oh, wilds, okay. All Savage gears for ultimates and easier Savage reclears. Exactly. That's exactly it. And Criterion dungeons when those come back. Yeah. I would like to do Criterion dungeons, but I can't even do Savage raiding currently. So with the difficulty levels in 14, so there's like there's the normal difficulty of like everything. There are dungeons, and there are hard mode dungeons, which are just like they take the original dungeon and they redo it, and it's a little bit harder because it's a higher level, but it's basically just a regular dungeon. And then there are trials, which are boss fights. And then there are raids. There are 8-man raids. So the raids are for parties of 8. That would be called a full party. Like a party for like a dungeon would be a light party, which is 4 people. So for raids, which are 8 people, 8-man parties, there are alliance raids, which are 24 people. It's 3 full parties of 8. So you're playing. Alliance raids are fun. You're playing with 24 people, but you're mainly focused on your party of 8 for most of the time. And then there are extreme trials. So like they take the normal version of a trial, and then they increase the difficulty, and and it would be called extreme. It's more difficult. Like the order that I'm saying them in is the level of difficulty. So like dungeons, trials, raids, alliance raids, and then after that would be extreme trials, and then after that the next difficulty up from there. So like the extreme trials are also optional. Like it's endgame. It's like the lowest of endgame. So if you want to dip your toes into endgame, an extreme trial would be where you start. Like after you feel comfortable with like alliance raids, and then after extreme trials would be savage raids. So they take the normal version of the raids and then they amp up the difficulty. That's where you do like the choreographed dance. Extreme trials too, but it's much more forgiving. But yeah, and then if you really want to challenge yourself, then you do ultimate raids. Yeah, just like Beauregard said. I got a 4-man static together and have gone back and done all 3 criteria, and they're honestly great. That sounds like fun. I would like to do it if I ever get the chance. We got our first extreme alliance raid this patch. That's right. So for the longest time, alliance raids never had like never had any other difficulty level until very recently. We got our first alliance raid that's higher difficulty. The difficulty level is called chaotic. I haven't tried that either. I would like to. There's a lot of I used to do endgame, but after I gave it up after Shadowbringers because I was stuck in what's known as PF hell. So if you're not doing doing endgame with a static, you're doing it with randoms, like a pug, like a pickup group. And there's a function in the game that lets you recruit people for pugs, called Party Finder. So like there's the pro with a static is that it's always the same people, and everyone knows, and everyone's like strategized together. Everyone knows what they're doing. The con about a static is that you have to schedule it. Everyone has to schedule. It's like it's like scheduling a D&D session basically. You have to like find the time that works best for everybody, and you have to be consistent. Especially if it's a static that does multiple times a week. So it's like you're making a big commitment. With the pug, with the randoms, the pro is that you can do it anytime you want. It's all in your own schedule, all in your own time. The con is that it's the randoms. You don't know how skilled they are. You don't know how well they know the fight. So it's a gamble. If it's a practice party, then it's like, everyone's going in there with the mindset that everyone's learning, which is it's much less stressful. I wouldn't say even stressful. There's no, it's not serious. Everyone's there to learn, right? If it's a clear party, that's what you join a clear party when you feel like you're ready. But oh boy, that's a whole other thing. But anyway, I can yap for Final Fantasy 14 for hours and hours. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up. We didn't get through all the videos, but yeah, the ones we saw so far, yeah, he obviously exaggerated some stuff, to make it funny, and he makes some references to stuff, but he's pretty spot on. He's pretty spot on. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today. Thank you all so much for joining me. We're gonna continue playing Final Fantasy IV the After Years tomorrow at the usual time. And the next week, nothing special next week, I think. No. Yeah, I can't think of anything. But as usual, if anything does come up, I will let you know. Oh, I'm sorry. we were just watching and yapping about FF14 the whole time. let's see. And thank you again to Beauregard and Miela for the raid. Thank you so much. Please check them out. Let me get their links to their channels really quick.
Oh damn. Okay, no. Stop. Stop.
Okay, there's Miela. Let me get Beauregard's. Why does it do that? Oops, that's not what I meant to do. That's not what I meant to do at all. I'll just shout out Beauregard again. Sorry. Did I spell it right? Oh, I typed it wrong. Oopsies. Oh, there's a cooldown. Let me get the actual URL. Annoying. Twitch chat needs to make it easier. Oh, no worries. Sorry about that. There probably is an easier way. I just don't know what it is. And thank you all to all the raiders that came by and stopped by, and those who stuck around. Thank you so much. Please feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed the stream. Please leave a comment if you would like to share your thoughts. And please follow on Twitch and or subscribe on YouTube if you'd like to see more just chatting streams, just yapping, just reacting streams. And if you're going to bed, I hope you rest well and have sweet dreams. If your day is just getting started, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And I hope to see you all tomorrow for Final Fantasy IV: The After Years. Ta-ta! Otsumika!